Welcome to Drink Wine Be Crafty. I'm Megan. Today I'm going to do a beginner corner to corner crochet video. We're going to be doing this coaster, which I know it's a little Christmassy, but these were the best colors that I had that went together. And I mean, who doesn't love a little Christmas coaster? So we're going to need some yarn. You need 3 different colors. I'm using a dark green, light green, and red. And then normally this size yarn would take a 5mm hook, but I'm going to be using a 4.25mm hook because I want my squares to be a little smaller. And then just a yarn needle for sewing the ends. You're going to have lots of ends to sew in. So let's get started. If you're not familiar with corner to corner crochet, you use a graph pattern. So I have drawn this graph pattern here, and again I'm using the 4.25mm hook, and we are going to start with our red color because you always start in the bottom right hand corner of the graph chart. There is a lot of color change in this particular pattern, but I think that's a good, this is going to be a good one to get used to all the color changes. We're going to start with this red square here, and this is a very simple project once you get the hang of it. I feel like it's complicated to begin with, but once you get the hang of it, it's the same thing over and over again. So I'm going to make a slip knot real quick, and then we are going to chain 5 to begin our work. This is going to be all half double crochets. So you're going to chain 5. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And we're going to half double crochet in the 3rd chain from the hook. So we have this chain 2 and 3, and the 3rd one there, that's what we're going to half double. So you yarn over, you go into that 3rd chain from the hook, and you pull the yarn through. And then you yarn over and you pull through all 3. That is a half double crochet, and that is the stitch that we're going to use. So do it again, yarn over, go into the next stitch, pull your yarn through, yarn over again, and pull through all 3. And then you do this one more time. But on this last half double crochet, we're going to do our first color change. So we're going to yarn over and pull through, and then we're going to pause there because we have to get our lime green, because we've just finished this first square, and then we're going to the lime green square that's above it. So you need to grab your other color, and to attach it, what I do is hold on to the red, and then with the same finger I put my new color on, and then you just pull through with the new color instead of the red, and that's how you color change. And we're going to do that a lot with this red and lime green throughout this. And then after you do that, you're going to chain 5. So we're actually going to repeat the same thing that we just did. We're going to chain 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, and we are going to half double crochet. Actually, before we get into that, let me explain. Anytime you're increasing, so we went from 1 to 2, and then we're going to go to 3 and 4 and so on until we get to these corners here. Once we get to those corners, we will no longer need to chain 5. Anytime you chain 5, that is the increase for the corners. I'm sorry, for the square. So right now we chain 5, and we are going to do half double crochet in the 3rd chain from the hook, just like we did the last one. So we're repeating the exact same pattern, and we're going to be doing this over and over again. But we're going to do another half double crochet into the next chain, and then we're going to do one more to finish this 2nd square. And we don't have to color change, so we're just going to keep going with the lime green. Our next square is going to be this lime green one, so we don't have to color change, but first we're going to take the red and we're going to turn it. First you know, they're side by side like this. Well, you're going to take the red and you're going to flip it up because we want to join these. And to do that, what you want to do is slip stitch into the top of this red square where your chain 2 was. So you're going to just pull through and do a slip stitch in this very top portion of this red square, and then you're going to chain 2. We only chain 2 here because this is not where we need to increase, so we're going to chain 2, and then we're going to do 3 half double crochets in the same spot. Now again, be ready for a color change. So we're going to do 1, and then we do 2, and then on this third one, if I can get my yarn to cooperate here, we're going to do a color change back to the color red. So pull through here and then drop this lime green yarn and then come back, because here's where we are. We're at the bottom and we're going to go red, then green, then red again. So there's going to be a couple color changes here. And to do that, just drop that lime green, go back to the red, and pull through with the red on this one. And now we are at a portion where we're going to increase. So we're going to increase by chaining 5, because now instead of 2 squares on this row, we need to have 3 squares on this row, and do the same thing. Go to the third chain from the hook and do your first half double crochet, and then we are going to do 2 more half double crochets, and then after this square we're going to bring in our dark green. So that's 1 half double, 2, and on this third one, remember, don't bring the red through, so pull through, drop the red, and then we're going to get our dark green. And what we've done so far, we have done the first red, done the second row of 2 lime green, and then we've also done the bottom red here, and then we're going to do this dark green now. And now we're going to add the dark green just the same way we added the lime green earlier. Going to hold on to that, and we're going to pull it through instead of pulling through with the red. So pull through with the dark green, and then after you do that, just like we did before, we want to stack them. So we're going to slip stitch into the very top of this lime green square. One thing to be aware of when you're doing this is that you want your ends, like this is the tail of that dark green, I want it to be on the back side of my work, and I'm looking at the back side right now, so just put all those ends on the other side before you do your, and we don't want red, we want this, so put the red on the other side, and then actually grab the dark green instead. Sorry guys, not trying to confuse you, and do that slip stitch. And we're going to chain 2 because we're in a middle square. The only time we're going to chain 5 is when we're on the ends, and we're going to do 3 half double crochets. So that's 1, and then we have our second one, and then we're going to do a color change on this third one. So go ahead and do the third one and get ready to change to red, because we're going back to red this time. And then we want that end to come over on the other side, so it's on the back side, and then we are going to grab the red and we are going to pull that through. Now with the green and red rows, the dark green and red, sorry, I'm going to keep this, I'm not going to cut the colors, I'm just going to carry them. And I promise that will make more sense as we go, because I will be showing you more details on that. But no, don't chain 2 here, sorry, I have to take that out because I was not supposed to chain 2, I'm supposed to slip stitch here. So we're going to slip stitch in the top of this square where our chain 2 is. We're going to do a chain 2 after we slip stitch to make our second red square in this row. So now we're finishing the last square on this third row, and this is a row where we will be needing to increase and do a color change. So that's 2. We need to do one more half double crochet but not pull through with the red, because we are going to grab our lime green, and remember we want this ends to be on the other side. Before we pull the lime green through, we actually want to cut, and we'll just have an end that we need to sew in. We're not going to carry that over because we don't want it to be messy in the back. So we're going to do that, and then we just reattach it at this point, and we're going to pull through with that color. And then in the end, I'll show you guys, I'll actually probably show you halfway how to sew in some of these ends so we don't get overwhelmed by them. But then we're going to chain 5 again, and we are going to be increasing. So we just had 3 squares. This one we're going to have 4, and they're all going to be the lime green on this row. And we're color changing back to red, so now we're going to do another row of the red and dark green. And I think at this point, hopefully I have explained this to where you understand how to do the rows where we are increasing and color changing. So what I'm going to do, we have a couple more rows until we get to no longer needing to increase. So I'm going to do these next couple of rows and then come back and show you guys what to do whenever you no longer need to increase. With corner to corner crochet, there are a ton of tails that you have to sew in. I have a metal yarn needle, which is not my favorite because it's a little hard to get the yarn into the needle. But when you're doing a big project, especially this one's a little bit smaller, so it's not that big of a deal. But when you're doing a really big one and you're going to have a lot of tails, it's good to pause halfway or pause every now and then and sew in your ends. And to do that, I try to follow along this little spot right here, just making sure that it's neat and hidden. But I do recommend sewing in your ends throughout your projects, especially whenever it's a really big one. Now that we've sewn in the ends, you can really start to see the square and the pattern come together. So I'm going to do the next row, the next lime green row. So this will be our last increase, and this will actually be the last time that we do the color change in that particular spot. And I will show you once I get to the very end of this row. I'll show you exactly what I mean. After I finish this, I'll come back and show you guys how to decrease. So normally whenever you get to the end of the row, you pull your color change through on the third half double crochet, but we are actually going to finish with the same color, because what we need to do is we need to join these two here with a slip stitch, and then you chain 1 and turn your work. And what you're going to do to decrease is we need to get back to the beginning of that square, and to do that we're going to slip stitch into those 3 chains at the top. So we're going to do 1 slip stitch here and go to the next chain and do a slip stitch again, and then there's 1 more chain left before you get to the turning chain, and you're going to slip stitch into that. And here is where you're going to do your color change back to red. Instead of pulling through on that final slip stitch with the green, you're going to slip stitch with the red. So just on that third slip stitch, switch colors and slip stitch in the red, and then chain 2 and continue doing your next row of the red and green. And then I'll show you this decrease one more time at the other end. Okay, so we're at the other end. I'm going to finish my third half double crochet here and pull through with the red, and then I'm going to slip stitch into the top of the green square, chain 1, turn my work, and then I'm going to slip stitch into these 3 chains to go backwards to get to the end, and then on this last slip stitch I'm going to pick back up with the lime green. So drop the red and grab the lime green, and we're getting really close to the end of this project, so I will finish and show you guys what to do whenever you're completely done. Alright guys, well let's do the very last square of the project. So we'll do our chain 2, and we will do 1 half double crochet, and then we'll do our second half double crochet, and then we will do our final half double crochet. And then once you have finished, you're going to slip stitch into the green square beside it, and then cut your yarn. And once you've cut your yarn, then you could do 1 more slip stitch and just pull your work all the way through and tie a knot. And here is the finished product, but other than having to do a lot of sewing in of your ends, which does take a little bit of time, so I'm going to do that and then show you the final product. And here it is, guys, the final product of our corner to corner coaster. I even think that the back looks really pretty even with the carrying of the yarn. But definitely give me some feedback. Let me know if this was clear, if it was helpful, if it wasn't, and you have any questions. Also let me know. If you like this, I will definitely do more corner to corner because it's by far my favorite crochet technique. So yeah, let me know, and I will see you next time. Bye guys.